be much appreciated. But we're going to go through and we're going to talk quickly about how to define and understand your goal in real estate investing. And then we're going to go through how to pick a location, how to pick a property, and actually how to underwrite that property. That's a lot of information to pack into, just a 30-minute meeting here, but I'm going to do my best. If you guys, again, I see a couple comments. Yep, hear you on my end. No audio here from Brad. Brad, can you hear me now? If not, let me know. If you can, drop a comment in there. Can everybody else hear me out there? I want to make sure you guys are getting all this information. VJ can hear me. Lisa, Eric. If anybody can't hear me, just let me know. I'll keep an eye on that chat. But while we're at it right now, I'm going to share my other screen with you guys, and we're going to dive right into defining and understanding your goal. So my goal in getting you to understand your goal is when I'm filtering through different Facebook groups, I'm always seeing people ask, should I buy this property? Here are the numbers. What are you guys looking for? What amount of cash flow? What amount of, what do I buy it at? What can I sell it at? And those are really the wrong questions to be asking yourself, in my opinion. Whenever I look at a real estate investment, I always want to ask myself two goals. The first thing is my goal for this property to build wealth, long-term wealth, or is my goal for this property to reach financial freedom? If you've already reached financial freedom, then you're probably more concerned with building long-term wealth than you are just adding additional cash flow. Okay, so the two different metrics that we're going to look at, and if you guys haven't got my free real estate analysis pro forma, let me know and I can make sure you guys get that. But we're going to share my screen if I can figure out how, and share my screen here, and we're just going to walk through this extremely quick. So here is the free real estate analysis pro forma that I built. I talk about this in my book. If you guys haven't read it, just reach out to me. I'll make sure you get a free copy. I talk about how this is done. I also have a YouTube video that walks through all of this. The main thing I want to focus on right now is that knowing what you want your end result to be. So if you're someone who is more focused on building cash flow that you can escape the rat race and have supplemental income every single month, then your goal is to find a property that's going to have the highest cash on cash possible. So as we can see, we can come on the back end of the return analysis tab, and we'll just go to the residential one. If my internet will work here. There we go. And I hadn't put any numbers in yet, but the cash on cash is going to be found here. And obviously this is the years. And as they go on, due to inflation, due to different expense levels, debt pay downs, things of that nature, your cash on cash is going to differ. So if we're focused on building financial freedom, what we want to do is focus on the cash on cash tab. Now, if we're focused on long-term wealth, then we're already financially free, and we don't necessarily care about the difference between a 7% cash on cash and an 8% or 9 or 10% cash on cash. Then we want to look at the IRR number, because that's going to be best for our long-term wealth. And again, cash on cash, like I said, is better for getting you out of the rat race. Okay, so again, we're going to move quick here, and I'm going to open it up to questions and answers, live Q&A. So the next thing, if you're looking for a property, first we want to start with understanding what our goal is. And that's going to, determine exactly what kind of property we're looking for in what location. So it's not the best place to look, but I'm just going to use it as an example. If we wanted to find a high cash on cash property, that's what we'll focus on instead of our high cash on cash. And we want to do residential properties because that's what we're comfortable with. We could just start looking and searching on Zillow. Okay. So this is the zip code I live in, 30341. And what we're going to quickly dive into is if you're looking for rental property, you may not always want to look in certain zip codes, because whenever the price ranges get so high, the rental rates, a lot of people have heard of the 1% rental rule. The rental rates are going to be different in varying levels. So what we may want to look at, let's just go all price ranges here, and let's do houses, manufactured condos. It's like somebody's trying to get in. We'll put these guys in real quick. Okay. So if we're looking again and going back to what I said here, we want to figure out, we don't want lots because they're not going to cash flow. What we want to figure out is what is the best area? So if I'm just searching one zip code, if I'm only looking to invest in the zip code I live in, that's probably not the best idea. What I really want to figure out is in what concentration, in what areas is the best place for me to be looking. So as we look on a map, and I'm in Atlanta, you guys, I don't know where you're at and how this will relate to where you are. But if you're looking in this area of Atlanta, this is all super expensive property where a lot of very, very nice homes are. And that's not the best place to be investing for if you want high cash on cash metrics. Really, the best place to be looking for is going to be in the outskirts and in places that have medium to above average school districts for residential properties, because those are where your reliable, good, solid renters are going to be that want to live in a good area that have working class jobs. So for us, we may want to go a little further up the 75 corridor where, I know personally in Cartersville, home prices are going to start to drop and there's still going to be good, strong rental demand. So if we are looking, you want to figure out, okay, where's the best place for me to invest? Don't always think that the best place to invest is right there in your backyard. You want to figure out where in, your surrounding area. I mean, I would even, I own property in 5 different states, all in the Southeast that I can drive to within a day, which is my matrix. I want to be able to drive to it, get there within a day. But that's a huge range. That's a 600-mile range. So really, whenever you're thinking about where do I want to invest, don't just think, I live in Georgia, I live in Atlanta, I want to live in Atlanta. You need to start broadening your search and figure out where is there a lot of rental demand and where do the prices make sense. For a lot of you guys on this call, one of the best rental markets in all of America right now is Huntsville, Alabama. A lot of people don't know this, but that is one of the strongest rental markets because they have huge job growth. A lot of people who are coming in there young and want to rent a house, and prices are low and rental demand is high. So if I were wanting to buy residential houses, I would do my market research, and Huntsville is probably a place that I would go to, I would drive to, and I'd become very, very familiar with the Huntsville, Alabama market. So again, I don't want to dive in super deep, but whenever you're talking about how do I choose the perfect location, you really want to figure out in terms of rental prices, how much am I going to get a month in rent? And also in that calculation, you're going to figure out how much of my annual expense is going to be. Because I can tell you from personal experience, Georgia property taxes are much higher than Alabama property taxes. And that's even going to differ county to county. Okay, so you have to look at the total picture of where am I investing and why am I investing here. You should live where you want to live, and you should invest where the numbers make sense. Just because you live in Georgia doesn't mean you should invest in Georgia. So invest where the numbers make sense. And that comes down to a whole lot of market research. Okay. So again, I don't want to spend too much time because I want to get through all this and open it up to live Q&A. So I'm just going to pick a property and let's go check out Huntsville, Alabama. I'm not familiar with the market. I know it's a great market, but I'm not in the residential rental. But for those of you who are looking to do that, we'll just take a look at Huntsville. I know these numbers are going to work a lot better. And what I'll want to do is probably search houses under $300,000 because that's going to be a good rental range. So these are all the houses. Pull this over. These are all the houses that are for sale. And I can just start to become familiar. I want to look at these houses and figure out, okay, what are these houses selling for in what area? Take a look at the different properties, get familiar with the different school districts. See, here's a house that's listed for $399 and Zillow thinks it's worth $765. But anyways, what I want to do is essentially start to create a map in my mind, and I could do this through an Excel sheet or whatever. And I want to figure out, okay, where are the houses for sale? What are they selling for in this area? Is it a good area? And then I want to figure out what they can rent for. Okay, so you can see here in the entire Huntsville market, there are only 3 properties for rent on all of Zillow. That's a huge flag in my mind that out of this entire thing, there's only 3 houses for sale. That means the rental demand in this market is through the freaking roof. This tells me that people are just leasing these properties as soon as they come online, which is a great, great sign. And I could confirm that demand by calling these people and asking, what else do you guys have available for rent? How long has this been sitting vacant? Questions like that to figure out what it really is. So I can see here that in this area, it looks like we've got one that's renting for $1,070. It's a 2-bed, 2-bath, 1,250 square foot. That's an apartment. Here's a house for rent for $1,000. So I just want to become familiar when I'm looking at a market with how much can I buy a property for versus how much can I rent a property for. Does that make sense to you guys? If that makes sense, do me a favor and drop any questions you have about that in the chat. Let me see if I can admit these other guys. Okay. All right. Yes, yes, yes. 30097. How about somewhere close to good schools? Yes, Lisa, definitely want to make sure it's in a good school district, because probably your best renters are going to be people who have kids. And they want to make sure their kids go to good schools. So what else? Brad can hear me. Make sure you send the spreadsheet. Okay. Gotcha. So we're going to mute this. And so now we're just going to underwrite a property. Okay. So let's say that this property right here is renting for $1,000 a month. And this is where the analysis spreadsheet comes into play that you guys can get for free on me. So this property right here, it's for rent for $1,000 a month. That's going to be, let's see, his estimate would be $1,200 a month. But let's just say that we want to come over here and start filling out our tab that's going to be our underwriting. It's going to tell us whether this property is going to give us cash flow or whether this property is going to give us a wealth return through IRR. So we have to do the numbers to actually figure out, is this property going to be better for cash on cash, or is it going to be better for IRR, and how much should I pay for this property? So this is let's walk through. So it doesn't give us any information on this property. Maybe let's go to a different one. As you guys can see, it's a process to figure out the whole thing, but let's go to, so here's a 1-bed, 1-bath apartment for rent, $969.
Hey, what's up? It's me. Listen, could you tell John to give me a call, please? This is Stella. Talk to you later. Bye-bye, because I want to know when I'm coming back. Okay, thanks.
Let's see if we can get that person on mute. Okay. So anyways, these are apartments here, but we want to figure out where the houses for rent are, and then we want to start underwriting one. So let's just say these are apartments, hometown. So there's literally no houses in all of Huntsville for rent, which is a good sign if you're doing rentals there. But let's say that we could get one for, let's say, a 2-bed, 2-bath. As we want to fill this out, the monthly rate for this, it looked like, was $1,000 a month, and it had 1 unit. Now you can use this spreadsheet as well if you're doing, say, apartments, mini storage, retail space, and you want to fill out more units. But what this is going to do is it's going to total up how much money we're going to make over the course of a year. We're going to want to enter in our vacancy rate, which is how long on average do we think this unit is going to sit vacant. Okay, so as a standard, I like to put 5% on residential, especially in an area that's going to lease up really well. If you think you're going to have a hard time leasing that property, you're going to want to be more conservative and put, 10, 15, 20% for how long that property is going to sit vacant between times of rentals. Okay. And then the next is your rent growth. So if you're in an area of extremely high rent growth, you may want to put 4, 5, 6% rent growth. You can research all those numbers. I like to use 2%, which is the rate of inflation, just as a standard. And as you'll see, it's going to increase the potential gross income here, which is our units times the number of months. And it's slowly going to increase that over time. Okay, the next thing that we're going to go to is our expense analysis. So whenever we're doing our expenses, we want to be very, very sure that we're getting all of them. The first thing that you can do is property taxes, and you want to make sure that your property taxes are input accurately, because those are something you just pretty much can't negotiate, can't get out of. So whenever we're looking for property taxes in an area, let's find a house. We'll find a house in this area of where the rent was $1,000 a month. So right here, 3-bed, 1-bath. We were looking at a 2-bed, 2-bath, but this is essentially pretty much the same size. It's like 960 square feet. So let's just say this is a comp here. So here's a property. It looks like it might need a little love. Probably needs to be flipped on the inside, which is fine. But what we want to do whenever we're on Zillow is we want to come down to the see more facts and features, and annual assessed amount $50,000, annual tax amount $580 a year. So if I buy this property for $130, that means my property taxes are going to double from $580 to, call it, let's just say $1,300. And this is something you could be more granular about. But we want to come over here, put in our taxes at this is the 1,300 divided by 12. That's going to give us our monthly rate, and then we're going to do our annual rate here of $1,300. And then we want to go through and we just want to type in all of these different expenses. So for insurance, and I'm just going to guess here because I don't know the Huntsville market that well, but 500 divided by 12, it's going to give us a $500 annual. We're going to want to say let's call it $100 a month in repairs. There's going to be no software. Let's say we pay a property manager 8% to manage the property for us. Bank fees, let's call it $10 a month for an account. Pest control, $25 a month. Say we do the accounting ourselves. Lawn care is, let's say it's $100 a month, no marketing, and let's have the tenant pay the utilities. So what this is going to do, it's going to fill out our expense rate, and it's going to show the same thing that happened to our income increasing at a 2% rate. Our expenses are going to increase too. So as you can see, over a 20-year period here, our expenses are going to increase. Now, what this sheet is going to do for you, let's actually go back and enter this in. So we can buy this house for $130,000. So let's put it in there, $130,000. And let's say initial improvements, let's just ballpark this and say we need to put, let's call it 15 grand into this property. So 15,000, and let's say our closing costs are $5,000. So our total down payment out of pocket on this property would be $46,000. And let's say we get let's say we actually do a 85% loan at a 5% rate over 360 months. That'd be 30 years. So now we get our monthly payment. And what this sheet is going to do for you in the pro forma tab is it's going to bring in your income, it's going to bring in your expenses, and it's going to bring in your debt, and it's going to build out a pro forma for you guys so you can actually see over a 20-year period what kind of money am I making on this property. So as you can see in year one, at $1,000 a month rental rate, we have a $1,200 potential income. We have $600 of vacancy, effective gross income of $11,400. We have $5,500 of expenses. I'll zoom in so you guys can see this better, because I realize it might be small. So we have a net operating income, which isn't important on our residential. We have $7,100 of debt service. And whenever you take your net operating income minus your debt service, we're going to lose $1,300 a month of cash flow. I'm sorry, a year. We're going to lose $1,300 a year. So this is not a cash flow positive investment. And another thing that we want to note is that doesn't mean this isn't a good investment, because what they're saying here on the 130, that's their asking price. They may be willing to take a lot less than that. We can actually do some quick research to figure out, okay, how much did this property sell for last? As we can go back to the price and tax history, we can look down, listed for sale, listed for sale. It doesn't look like this property is sold any time lately. Listed for sale, listed for sale. So they've been trying to sell it. As you can see here, they had it listed for $65,000 to $135,000. So they may have thought that for some reason they maybe got a new realtor or something like that. They thought they could sell it for more. But let's say we could pick this house up from them for $70,000 instead of $130,000. What I'm going to do, and this is just a negotiating, is come back and say, hey, the numbers don't work on this property. Let's look at it at $70,000. So whenever I type in $70,000 here, it's going to change my down payment. It's going to change my monthly payment. My income and expenses are going to stay the same. So we're going to go back and look at our pro forma. So now that I changed the price to a level that may work and they may be willing to accept, I went from negative $1,300 of cash flow to a positive $2,000 of cash flow a year. And the main difference comes from my debt service being a whole lot different. Okay. And let's just say that we bought the house for 70, we put 15,000 into it, and now it's worth 90,000. And that 90,000 is going to appreciate at 2% a year. So this is going to be our balance sheet down here. Then we're just going to go look at our returns, and we're going to figure out, is this property a good cash on cash play or a good IRR play? So whenever we come over and we look at the cash on cash, we can see from the numbers we put in that in year one, we can expect a 6.5% cash on cash. In year two, 6.9, and that's slowly going to creep up as rental rates go up. And you can see here on the IRR side that it's until year three that we make a 10% IRR. So in my opinion, this property at $70,000 isn't necessarily a good cash on cash or a good IRR play. 7% is okay, but I would look higher, maybe towards 15% for cash on cash. And if you're looking for IRR plays, you should be looking probably for a 30% at year 3 to year 5. So this property, obviously, we either have to pick it up for lower or find a way to add more value and income to it. Okay, so that's as far and as I'm going to go on the residential side. If we wanted to quickly look at commercial, you guys can do the same exact process on commercial properties. I'd recommend going to LoopNet. And again, you don't have to look in just your backyard. Look around to properties that make sense in the right markets. Okay, so just like here, it's going to auto-populate Atlanta. but that may not be what I want to look for. So I'm going to clear this. I'm going to remove the boundary. I'm going to look at all property types. I'm going to zoom out. And all of these are commercial properties that are for sale. But just as we zoom out, you're going to see how many properties out there are for sale. And I guarantee you, some of these are great deals. You just have to be willing to run the numbers on the properties and make offers on them. Okay. So look at how many properties within 1 day's drive that are currently for sale in the commercial world of Atlanta, where I live. Now, if you live somewhere else, say if you live in Texas or, Idaho, wherever you live, there's going to be a number of properties that are for sale around you. You just have to get out there. You have to look at the properties and you have to be willing to underwrite them. Okay. So you can do the same exact thing. The process is going to be a little different because you're going to have to ask more and more about income and expenses on commercial properties than you are residential, because it's not as straightforward. It's still the same process, but it's just not as straightforward. So let's see if we can find exact thing. The process is going to be a little different because you're going to have to ask more and more. So I think the question was, it's going to be a little different because you're going to have to ask more questions. Is that right? Was that your question? I think that was the question. So I'm going to answer it like I think that's the question. If it's wrong, let me know. But yeah, so the process in commercial is going to be a little bit more complex because you're not just dealing with one unit, or you may be dealing with one unit, but it's going to be a lot bigger volume and the lease terms are going to be a lot different. Okay. So if you're dealing with commercial, you're going to have to ask more questions. You're going to have more, call it software expenses, management expenses, things of that nature. It's the same process. You're still trying to get to an NOI and a positive cash flow. Instead of valuing it fair market, you're going to be valuing it on a cap rate. So you just have to be more, certain about cap rates, markets, expenses, things of that nature, operating reserves. Because whenever you get in commercial, it's still a piece of real estate, but you're going to run it a little bit more like a business than you are, say, just a house that just sits out there and cranks out monthly rent. Does that make sense? Okay. All right. So I've ran through a lot of different stuff. I've talked a lot. I'd like to open it up to Q&A. If you guys have anything that you want me to specifically dive into, I'd be happy to do that. It's 3:27 now, but I'm available till 3:45. So we can spend 15, 18 minutes here going over whatever you guys want. How do I get to the chat?
Hello there, everybody. This is Nadia from Florida.
Hey,
can you hear me?
I can. I love Florida.
Yeah, around this time of the year. Don't come here in September or so. Question, and I see a few people actually ask that. Is there anything we can do to actually get access to your spreadsheets?
Yeah, this spreadsheet is free for you guys. So you just go to haydencrabtree.com/resources and you can go download the sheet for yourself. Whenever you come to the sheet, it's going to be a view only. And all you have to do to get the sheet is you go to file and then you hit make a copy, and it'll make your own copy. So you're not editing it and other people can get the original as well. But you're just going to want to hit make a copy. It'll save it in your own Google Drive, and then you can use this as much as you want. I built it and you guys can have it for free.
Awesome. So haydencrabtree.com/what?
Yep. So just like this, let me see. I can try and pull it up. I'll send,
Just so small.
I'll send the direct link in, I'll post it in Facebook comments after this. So you can just go look on the Facebook post that was last up, and I'll just post a direct Google Docs link here. Okay.
Awesome. Thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome. Any other questions? It can be about residential, commercial, cash on cash versus IRR. It can be whatever you want.
My question is, after COVID-19 and everything gets a little bit normal,
Uh-huh.
I'm fairly certain a lot of properties are going to pop up. How do you get access to homes that are distressed? Because it would be nice to get them before the foreclosure is done.
Yeah, yeah, no kidding. That would be great. I think that probably the best way to go about that is going to be staying really hyper on top of just the market. You know, everyone wants this magic system that is going to deliver pre-foreclosure leads to their door, and it may be out there, but for me, I found the most consistent thing is just talking to as many people. That involves realtors, that involves wholesalers, that involves other investors, and telling them, hey, I'm in the market to buy right now. Because the truth is, a lot of people aren't in the market to buy right now. They say they are, but they can't close. So if you can come and know with conviction that your true intent is to close on properties, you're probably going to be able to get them at a discount because you're helping that other party out and you're helping yourself out. Now, where I think we are in the market right now is that I don't think that we've seen the foreclosures come yet at the rate they're going to, just with all the, lack of, you can't even legally foreclose right now in a lot of states. People have gotten their stimulus checks. There's a lot of different reasons, but I think you're going to see a wave of them coming later this year, maybe even next year, because it's a delayed reaction, but they will be there in my opinion. So I just say hang tight. I think, there's going to be so many deals out there. You won't necessarily worry about getting to them before they get to foreclosure, because that was a technique whenever the market was good. You're trying to get them before, to find a deal. But I think the market is going to be flooded with deals before too long.
What is your point on using hard money?
I prefer not to personally in my own business, just because I don't like to pay super high rates whenever you can get low rates from a bank and you can partner up and joint venture with investors on deals that make sense and are win-win for both parties. So that's kind of my 2 cents. But if you need to use hard money, I have friends that are very successful that do it. It's just never been personally one of my things. And another thing for me is that I'm not a residential investor at this moment. I focus primarily on commercial, and there's not as much hard money products for, big commercial deals as there are for residential. So in residential, it could be a good play.
Makes sense. Yeah, no, I wouldn't feel so comfortable with hard money either.
Yeah. Be careful. I was talking to a friend of mine yesterday who, he had talked about a hard money lender had used, and the guy had given a loan knowing that he was going to fail just to foreclose on the property at a discount. And it's, some of those people you got to be careful with. I'm not saying some people aren't reputable. I just make sure you know who you're doing business with.
Yeah, totally understand.
Yeah.
No, appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Very welcome. Anybody else?
Yeah, Hayden, on a cash return is usually what I've been using, but can you kind of just give a brief description, I guess, of when you'd use IRR and also kind of, I guess, what you get out of that versus cash on cash return?
For sure. Good question. So the way I think about it is, and I was touching on this briefly, is cash on cash is essentially saying, for the dollars I have, how much, and I put into it, how much am I going to get into return? So if I have an unlimited amount of dollars and my goal is to get towards financial freedom, then I'm going to want to utilize my dollars to their maximum advantage. So I don't want to buy a low cash on cash property if I have limited number of dollars to put into property and my goal is to reach financial freedom. So everyone kind of gets that part of the cash on cash, but what people don't transition away from is that whenever you reach a certain point in financial freedom, maybe you're not worried about necessarily the difference between an 8% cash on cash and a 12% cash on cash. Because if I can have an IRR that's say 40% versus an IRR of 20%, and a lot of that IRR is going to come through the large equity and appreciation gain. So to me, it may be more valuable to enter into a property and double or triple my money than it may be to say have the difference between an 8 and a 12% cash on cash. Did I answer that effectively?
Yeah, thank you. That makes sense.
Because I may be in a point in my life where I care more about just like long-term wealth and building up big buckets of money that I could 1031 into other investment properties. And to me, an IRR, it's a formula that combines not only cash flow, but how much equity am I going to get at what point in the future. So if I can trade a lower cash flow for a higher equity gain in the future, I'm probably willing to do that versus somebody who's, just very solely strictly trying to get as much extra monthly income as possible to pay the bills or, to quit their job or whatever it may be.
That makes total sense. So like on the commercial side, a good reason to look at IRRs because you can see the gain in the property value and the equity that you get from putting in, say,
exactly. And you don't even think about that on cash on cash, right? Cash on cash doesn't for a second look at how much I bought a property for $1 million and now it's worth $5 million. Cash on cash doesn't tell me that. You know what I mean?
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Anyone else? Got some people removed here. Any other questions? Anything at all?
I don't have a question, but I just like to talk and just say that if you guys haven't read his book, it's amazing. I took some time to read it, and I understand real estate investing, but it's just a great confidence builder and also a great start to understanding of the whole aspect of real estate investing.
Cool. I appreciate that. Anybody else? If you guys, who here, has some properties that you're struggling with through COVID, or, you're about to buy a property before COVID and you thought you should put the brakes on. We can talk about COVID. We can talk about general underwriting. We can talk about whatever you guys want. I got 10 more minutes here. All you got to do is unmute yourself.
It's Nadia again.
Hey.
Hey, so I switched, I'm a realtor.
Okay.
And I also took my money out of my 401k to put it in a self-directed IRA.
Okay.
And I've been a little gun shy so far to actually buy a property. But you kind of have to build your network as far as like contractors you can trust and all of that. What would you say would be a good strategy for someone to start?
There's never going to be a perfect time to start, right? Those fears are going to endure forever and they're not going to go away until you jump in. So, but probably the best way to start would just be buying something that's maybe not, if you're just looking to get your feet wet and build some confidence, probably the best thing to do maybe would be buy a turnkey rental from somebody who is going to manage it for you, just so you can kind of piggyback, watch the entire process of how it's rented, how the money comes in, what kind of expenses you run into, how to finance it, how to purchase it, things of that nature. So, if you just want a confidence booster and maybe you're not looking for the highest returns, I'd say possibly a turnkey rental on a single family house, something like that. Or another option would be to invest as a limited partner with somebody in your area doing deals. So you can find other landlords in the area and say, hey, my name's Hayden. I really want to get into real estate investing. I'm lacking a little bit of confidence, but I have some money in my retirement account I'd love to put to work. If you have any deals, I would love to partner with you and we can figure out how to split the money just so I can watch how the whole process works before I do it myself. So a lot of people will see your value you bring to the table in terms of capital and be willing to do that. But that's probably a pretty good way to get going.
Hey, that's a good idea. I wasn't thinking about that. I'm thinking about the rental market, especially because I live in Orlando. So
yeah. Be careful. And going back to kind of what I was saying about live where you live and invest where you want to invest. I just had a deal brought to me in Orlando, and I'm very skittish just because I think that the COVID thing will impact Orlando maybe harder than any other market in America. So whenever you're looking at markets, you maybe want to think about, can I buy in a town with industrial jobs that COVID won't impact versus more of something that's economically driven by tourist attractions? So something for you to think about.
Thank you.
Yes. And another thing is, and I don't want to go too deep, I heard you say self-directed IRA. A lot of people love self-directed IRAs, but there's a better product called the EQRP. The EQRP is just as good as a self-directed IRA. One of the biggest differences, whenever you use a self-directed IRA and you pull money out or you use a bank to buy a property, you have to pay what's called UBIT tax. The a self-directed IRA. If you do an EQRP, there is no UBIT tax, and you can do the same exact thing. Buy physical metals, you can hold them yourself, and you have checkbook control. So if any of you guys are thinking about getting a self-directed IRA, I'd recommend you get an EQRP instead. It has all the benefits and none of the downsides.
When you were talking about the downside from the self-directed IRA, there was some kind of background noise, so I didn't really get it.
Yeah. So if you use a bank to buy property in conjunction with your self-directed, then say you make $100,000 on that and you lever at 80%, you get an 80% LTV loan, then the government is going to tax your self-directed IRA on 80% of those profits. It's not actually going to be tax-free. So you'd be paying taxes on that $80,000 gain because you used a bank to do that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, is it possible to switch from self-directed IRA to an EQRP?
I think it is. Yeah. Send me a message on Facebook or shoot me an email and I can connect you with my friend who's the expert on it. Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Any other questions? How do you account for vacancies with commercial? From Ryan. Ryan, if you're listening, it's hard to just give a blanket answer. You really need to look at product type and also market. Just as an example, if I'm a self-storage investor, so if I wanted to look at self-storage vacancies in Atlanta, that's going to be a lot different than retail vacancies in Birmingham, Alabama, or Memphis. You see what I'm saying? So you really need to figure out not just like the blanket, you need to think about how in this market is this product performing and what is the story behind that product. If it's, if I'm going to build retail in Orlando, that's not a very good story right now. Okay. So let me know if that makes sense. Yep, absolutely. How do you deal with the horror stories of nightmares tenants, people that leave properties trashed? Joseph, it's really just kind of part of the business. I mean, that's what you vet your tenants out for, but that's why you have security deposits. If you're scared about your tenant, I think it's local laws, but you can make them put extra security deposits down as security for you. If they do trash it, you have more of a security deposit left behind to build it up. The horror stories is what has cautioned me in investing. I hear what you're saying. I own some residential properties and I've had them trashed a couple times, and that's part of the business. But, that's why I invest in storage units, because whenever people trash it and leave their stuff, then I just pull up a dump truck and load up the trash and take it to the dump and sweep it out, and it's clean. So whenever you think of horror stories, it sounds like you're pigeonholing your brain into like one little niche and thinking I only can invest in residential. And there's so many different investment opportunities out there other than just residential real estate. So don't let other humans' actions determine what you're going to invest, or if you're going to invest. Let it determine what you invest in. But other people are always going to be a problem in this world. Most problems come with hair on top, meaning people. So don't let that stop you from getting invested. And if you're scared of it, then invest with somebody else who, knows how to effectively manage that. That'd be my 2 cents. Very welcome. Anybody else? You can come off mute or drop it in the chat. Very welcome, Lisa. What was your favorite part? VJ, what's your question? We have about a minute and a half before I got to go here.
Hayden, my name's Austin. I'm a friend of VJ. We're watching the presentation together. I just wanted to let you know that the website is not working properly. Your haydencrabtree.com or haydencrabtree.com/resources.
So I just switched my URL. Type a www dot in front of it and see if it works. It's supposed to update within 72 hours, but I just switched my server this morning and it had, so try www.haydencrabtree/resources.
Yeah. So I'm talking like on the actual website where it's the orange and black and it says book, learn, portfolio, media, contact.
Yeah.
You try clicking on any of those, it doesn't take you to any of those tabs. It just keeps you on the main page.
Yeah, yeah. I got to get on my web designer to get those fixed. But I appreciate you letting me know. I'll have that fixed within a couple days.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
Just had it redone for sure.
Thanks, Hayden.
Yep. All right. Well, if nothing else, then I'm going to hop off here. I appreciate this. Would you guys want me to do another training? And if so, what would you want me to do it on? I'm happy to do more of these. I just like to be able to answer a lot of people's questions at one time. Yes, I am going to, I can send a replay of this. All right. If that's it, appreciate it. If you guys found this through my Facebook group and you have any further questions, either shoot me a direct message on Facebook or drop a comment on the last post. If you got this from my email list and you're not in the Facebook group, go join the Facebook group or reply to me in an email. I'll be happy to help you guys out. Okay. All right. Other than that, have a great Thursday. Keep rocking. Talk to you guys soon.
Thank you.
See ya.